Tuesday night, of course, there was the Preston game, and everything was looking up. Everything was rosy. There were a few talking points from that game that we need to square off first. Alfie, I think the goalkeeper getting injured in the warm-up was probably the biggest until his replacement was announced, and that was an even bigger story. That was a shock to see Alex McCarthy starting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that is bizarre. I think that's probably the first time in my life I've ever seen a player who wasn't actually in the squad jump straight into the 11. Obviously, that's just the virtue of the goalkeeper rules being slightly different. First of all, Gavin Bazunu is obviously going to be out for 9 or 10 months with a ruptured Achilles. It's the same injury that young defender Dinel Semedo had at the start of this season. He's still not playing. He's still not back. So it's a long one. It's a really long journey. It's obviously a blow to the way that Saints play, and it probably means that they're going to have to buy a first-team goalkeeper in the summer, you'd imagine, because unless they make some kind of massive U-turn on giving McCarthy a new contract, which I wouldn't be surprised by, but I don't think that'll happen. I think probably this is the end of that. So in terms of bringing McCarthy in, I asked Russell Martin about it. He said that he hadn't actually had a chance to properly explain it to Joe Lumley before the game kicked off, and he was going to have to talk to him after, but he was understandably not happy about it. It was a big decision. He said that he just wanted to see what McCarthy could do playing. He obviously hadn't played any minutes since Gillingham. I think that's the only appearance he's had this season, and that went brilliantly.
That went well,
yeah. But he's obviously seen what Joe Lumley could do in a couple of FA Cup games, and that for me, that answer must just mean that he's not 100% convinced by him. Because if
we gave him a new contract.
Well, that is a good point. Yeah, but then this is what makes it even all the more puzzling. But if you were that convinced by him, you'd have just played him. Surely, but then maybe...
I was in the ground when it all happened. I saw Bazunu. I didn't see Bazunu injure himself. I saw him getting carried off. Russell Martin came out onto the pitch. He gathered all the starting 11 together and was having a chat with them. So was he saying, "Who do you want in goal?" Or was he informing them of the decision? I don't know.
I can't have been a player decision, surely.
You wouldn't have thought so, but
it's that definitely was call, though, isn't it? It's that stranger call that we're going to ask.
It's that stranger call, and the excuses, if you want to call them that, the reasoning behind it that he gave just doesn't wash. So it's a bit of a strange one, because he said stuff like, "Oh, we haven't got an actual number 2." Well, yes, you have, because he's sat on the bench all season,
the entire season.
But all McCarthy's doing, he's not played a single game for any team. All he's doing is taking corners in the warm up. That's it. He's getting paid whatever he is to do that. So maybe it was just a training ground thing, a gut feeling thing. But yeah, I mean, Joe Lumley seems the kind of guy who has probably reluctantly accepted it, but he must have been furious, absolutely livid. Sat on the bench for 40 games or whatever, assuming he was second choice. So yeah, it was strange. But that meeting on the pitch definitely happened. I didn't imagine that. And Taylor Harbour-Bellis seemed to be saying at one point to Lumley that he was giving him the thumbs up and stuff like that. And
oh no,
so something strange happened, and I can't really explain it, but that meeting definitely happened.
There's a good comment that's just gone into the chat, actually. I think Stephen Wright, who says that maybe there's a financial reason why McCarthy hasn't been on the bench. I don't know if there's anything in his contract that says that if he sits in the squad, he earns a bigger wage, and therefore what's the point of having him in the squad? But when it actually comes down to it, would you rather have McCarthy in the team? So that's pure speculation, obviously, but maybe that's one other reason, maybe.
These are all good theories, aren't they? And all good explanations. The irony, Steve, is that there's an argument and a school of thought that says we actually might have played slightly better in that first half. We were obviously talking about Gavin Bazunu recently, and it's not what any of us would have wanted to see, but we'd had those questions about whether Lumley comes in. I don't think we'd ever said that maybe Alex McCarthy should start, but we certainly weren't playing the ball back to the keeper as much, were we?
We weren't, but it also helped that Preston, after the first 3 minutes, were absolutely pathetic.
Terrible.
I mean, that was a team that basically knew that they'd blown their season on the Saturday, and come the Tuesday night, just didn't fancy it. I mean, they had a couple of players playing out of position as well. Ex-Skate, Jack Watmo playing in central midfield, which is an interesting one for a guy who's been a centre back basically since he was about 12 years old, as far as I gather. And Dwayne Holmes playing at right wing back, was a
hilarious.
Was a fascinating one, because I mean, this guy, I think he's kind of a winger stroke sort of nippy sort of forward, sort of support striker type player. And Ryan Lowe thought putting him at right wing back up against Adam Armstrong and Ryan Manning was a really good idea, and that went really well, didn't it? He got booked early on, shanked the clearance for the third goal. Could have been sent off for giving away the free kick on the edge of the area, and was then subbed with 3 minutes of the first half to go. So yeah, that was a fine night for him. But I mean, in fairness, we played really well, I thought.
Is that one of the best 45 minutes of the season?
Yeah, I mean, you can only beat what's in front of you, but also I think that was one of the few occasions where we've scented blood and we've actually gone for it.
Yeah,
because I mean, there was that. I mean, we obviously scored the 3 goals in the space of about 10, 12 minutes, I think. But either side of that, we could have had 2 or 3 more. And it was a proper, absolute pasting for 25, 30 minutes of that first half. Once we got into half time, it was like, right, okay, well, the game's won. Let's just kind of manage it through. And even then, we still created 2 or 3 decent opportunities. Yeah. Keepers made 2 good saves.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was kind of perfect night ahead of the sort of from a midweek game where you kind of just want to get in and get out and get the job done. They got it done in 45 rather than 90, so you could afford to take things a bit easier in the second half, which should have helped ahead of
yeah. Set you up for a nice game at the weekend. I was going to say, Glenn, as well. Jack Stevens obviously was dropped onto the bench. Yeah, the undroppable Jack Stevens playing with some proper fullbacks. Was that close to our strongest 11 when you saw that team use?
I didn't have a single thing to complain about when I saw when I saw the team use. I mean, obviously the McCarthy thing was the headline news, but then you saw the. I think obviously Manning coming into the side. I thought he played really well. By the way. Did he get injured yesterday in the first half, or did he just?
Yeah, so he had like a bit of a knock on his foot, dead leg sort of thing, but he feels better already, so he'll play on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I thought that was one of. Again, any sort of praise has to be caveated as to the big caveat of the fact that Preston were diabolical. Yeah, but I thought Manning had a really good game. Just the whole back four looked assured. As I said before, it's not to do with Jack Stevens being in the team or not being in the team. It's to do with having a balanced team. Yeah. Left-footed left back, right-footed right back, all that old-fashioned stuff that no one tends to do anymore. Obviously, Flynn Downs was there for the first half, and when he couldn't do the second half, Shay Charles came in, and it was sort of seamless and uninterrupted, and we just carried on. As Steve said, if Freddie Woodman had a blinder in the second half, we'd have scored 5 or 6. So yeah, it was good, and everybody played well. David Brooks, I thought, put in a really decent performance as well, and he played for longer than he normally does. He was on for about 75, 80 minutes, I think, and overall it was. As Steve said, it was the perfect day. Everything that Russell Martin tried, right from McCarthy to taking Downs off at half time, we thought to rest him, so he could play against Cardiff. It all looked to have gone swimmingly well, but not. We found a way to make a mess of it, regardless.
As we do. Before we preview the Leicester game, let's do TSP Player of the Week. We're taking into account both the games. So, look at Steve's face. Any standout performances, Steve? It might just be based on that first 45 minutes against Preston.
Yeah, I mean, I thought both the sort of main attackers, Shay Adams and Adam Armstrong, were both excellent on Tuesday night against Preston, and like the movement and stuff, actually, that their interplay on Saturday at Cardiff was good for the first hour, but then we just kind of lost our way, and you also can't overlook the fact that both of those have missed all those chances. But I mean, I guess Stu Armstrong was good through both games. Could have scored like first minute. I think he hit the post against Cardiff with a great shot from 25 yards or so out. So yeah, and he was excellent. He was that kind of glue as he always is, linking the midfield and the attack. against what wasn't particularly vociferous opposition on Tuesday. So yeah, I'll go for Stu Armstrong as my nomination.
Glenn, any names you want to chuck into the hat?
No, I was going to say Stu Armstrong as well, but I mean, I could almost as a joke say Joe Aribo because he actually got a shot in the goal against Cardiff, whereas no one else could. Yeah, I mean, defenders were okay. I'd stick Ryan Manning in there. I thought he played really well against Preston, and he's a player who don't get many flowers from the fan base, and I'm sure he won't get many votes in the poll, but I'll stick him in there anyway. I thought, yeah,
Okay.
Ryan Manning had a decent game, and yeah, it's a shame he had to go off against Cardiff.
Is there anyone we've forgotten, Alfie?
No, nobody that's been forgotten. But I mean, Steve did mention Adam Armstrong and Che Adams, and I think on the merit of the performance against Preston, I will put Che Adams in the poll. He was really good. And
would you have left him on to get his hat trick?
Well, given what we've seen, what happened to Stuart Armstrong and Flynn Downs and things like that, I think at this point in the season you just can't take any risks over sentiment. No. So I was more than happy for him to bring him off. But I mean, he probably would have got it. He did have a chance for it, to be fair, didn't he? He did miss a chance for it. But his second goal was fantastic. If you watch it back, I mean, the back heel to was it David Brooks or Stewie, and then the run off finish as well. Yeah, that's a really good goal. So I will stick Che Adams in there, and we'll just have to try and forget about all the misses on Saturday.
Okay.